be destroyed. Joining me now is Sky News contributor Claire Rowe and New South Wales One Nation leader Tania. Hi to you both. Thank you so much for joining us this Friday. Look, let's get straight into the Olympics gender debate, this controversy that we're seeing. Tania, should athletes who have previously failed sex tests, like in this case, be allowed to compete in the Olympic Games?
Well, no, they shouldn't. And what I thought should have happened here in this instance is the IBA, the International Boxing Association, is the lead organisation for boxing. The IOC should actually turn to the IBA for advice in relation to this. They've chosen not to. So the way the IOC is, they're above everybody, they make the final call, and they're disregarding the actual professional organisation that oversees boxing internationally. IBA made a decision back in 23, post the World Championships in New Delhi, that the Taiwanese and the Algerian athletes did not meet the criteria for eligibility. They have their own rigorous testing. They made it clear they have kept the results confidential, but they have made it clear that those two athletes could not compete. And as you rightly said in the intro there, Danica, they made it clear that they didn't appeal, OK? One of them started the appeal and withdrew, and those decisions are legally binding. So what they have found is a loophole here with the IOC, because the IOC is not prepared to accept what the professional organisation is saying. They are completely infiltrated, in my belief, with just woke ideology,
very clear,
left wing. You know, whichever countries are part of the IOC, they have decided that they are far more concerned about any type of discrimination, apparently, than the safety and the integrity and the fairness of sport.
Absolutely,
that's what they've totally disregarded. So, to me, I think the Olympics is coming to a point where I'm tired of it, and I think more and more people have to really question, are they the pinnacle of sport anymore?
No.
I think not.
No, I completely agree with you. Claire, what's your take on how the Olympics have handled this situation? You've got a female boxer in tears in the middle of the ring, and the best the IOC could do is release a statement saying, oh, it's discrimination.
Well, discrimination against who? I'm not sure. Look, I agree with Tania that they've taken it upon themselves to become bigger than anyone else, and they've not just not turned to the professional body, they've just gotten rid of them, right? They've just got rid of them and said, we'll make the decisions ourselves, thanks very much, and it's fueled by something else. But these two athletes are continuing in the competition. I think one is competing maybe overnight tonight, one tomorrow definitely.
Yes.
So the world is waiting with bated breath, holding our breaths, watching as they are going to enter a ring. And well, I'm not a boxing fan, to be honest. I don't understand the entertainment of watching two people beat each other. But in a world where we are talking about violence so much and male violence, we're going to now sit and watch the world as someone with XY chromosomes comes in and literally beats a female. And if there is a significant injury, the IOC is directly responsible and needs to be held responsible for that.
Absolutely. Well, it's domestic violence, but under the guise, really, of sport. And this is the problem. This is where the line gets blurry. But you're right, we do have another bout tomorrow with the Algerian. We'll be very curious to see how that one goes. But look, let's move on, because Labor is moving to give Palestinian refugees a permanent home in Australia. That's according to 9 newspapers, which says a new special visa pathway will be created for Palestinians following months of lobbying by activists. Now, look, my concern with this is, what sort of views do these people hold? Because there was a Palestinian Centre for Policy and Survey research which found 72% of Palestinian respondents actually supported the October 7 attacks. Tania, should we be fast-tracking these visas?
No, we shouldn't. But I think it's really important right now that people look closer at why Tony Burke has decided to come back
as
Immigration Minister. That's my issue, I think, and what I think we should be all watching very carefully. This is a minister who was a proven failure back in the Rudd years, where we had the highest number of illegal detainees in Australia. We had children in detention. It was an entire fiasco under Burke's watch. And around the Labor circles, it was very clear that Burke didn't want the portfolio back then, OK? He was begging for an alternative option. And it's interesting to me that he's now put his hand up for immigration. and you've got to ask why. Well, one, he doesn't want to have anything to do with the CFMEU fallout, clearly. He wants to wipe his hands there. But two, the many organisations that are indeed lobbying the government in relation to these visas and refugee status for Palestinians are actually based in his electorate. And he knows he's bleeding votes to the Greens on this very issue. So this suits him, I think. I think this is one to watch. I hope the media and the opposition and everybody there in Parliament watches very closely as to what will happen down the track in relation to Burke being there in the immigration portfolio and indeed in Home Affairs.
And Home Affairs and everything else he's been given. I think you raise a really good point. Claire, what does this say about Tony Burke? Because also we've got to remember he's got the Muslim vote coming in his southwest Sydney electorate as well. Is this the start of a weak approach by the new minister for votes?
Well, I'll tell you what it doesn't do. It doesn't dispel any reaction or rhetoric from the coalition when he was appointed minister this week that suggested, as Tania was saying, this is, 2.0 of his last years under the Rudd government where we had hundreds of boats coming in. And within days of being the minister now we're talking about this.
Yes.
And as I'll just pick up what Tania said then too, is that conveniently now he doesn't have to answer questions about the CFMEU. He gets to just move on from that now. But look, I think Aussie is a very generous country. I don't think the pub test would show that Aussies are opposed to taking refugees. What Australians expect is that I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and there is a thorough assessment of these individuals coming in, particularly when they are from an area, as you said, that in the world that don't necessarily agree with our values or hold our same values. But we are very welcoming to people that do and want to contribute to this society. But you have to say it. There may be risks here that there are sympathisers with people, with organisations like Hamas and Hezbollah.
Yes.
And that has to be thoroughly investigated. And what Australian taxpayers expect is that Australian citizens and their safety are put well before, foreign nationals coming in and a social justice campaign to help Gaza. And that Australians' priorities are put forward in their safety, particularly in the last 6 months than the debacle under Giles, and that we feel safe as a nation, not only physical safety, but that our values are upheld and we can go about our lives.
Absolutely, completely agree with you.
And can I just add, I think it's also important that we really watch the level of lobbying in this space.
Yeah.
And there has to be a rigorous review of what is permissible and what's not when it comes to lobbying.
Well, this was apparently based on lobbying, this decision.
And who are they? Who are they? Where's the declaration?
Correct.
And what are their interests?
No, that is also a very good point. Now, look, let's talk about the NDIS, because premiers are demanding that Anthony Albanese and Bill Shorten cede their absolute authority over plans to redesign the scheme and give them a role in deciding who is eligible for the $44 billion program. There's been growing concern among the states that the proposed legislation strips them of any say in determining the extent of the scheme. Now, Claire, you've been very vocal about the wastage that we have seen in the NDIS. Should states have a say? Is that a solution?
Well, I think they should have a say if they're going to contribute. I think they contribute up to about 30% at the moment with funding, resources, services. There's no debate anymore whether the NDIS costs too much or is a complete mess. It's rising at 14% a year. We cannot afford it. And so I don't think there's any debate that what we need to do is rip it up and start again. What we need to do is come back to the fundamental reason the NDIS existed, which was to support people with lifelong disabilities that functionally impaired them, so they could not contribute in terms of employment. Their quality of life is reduced. And those people, no one is saying that we shouldn't support those people.
No.
Now, I was saying to someone today, the eligibility for children, and that's where there's a big controversy about children on the NDIS, you do not need a diagnosis under the age of 7, okay? You need to have some features of some difficulties. That could be some social difficulties. It could be some coordination difficulties, okay? And suddenly you're on the NDIS. Now, what needs to happen is those people need to be removed. But community supports there needs to be something else for these kids, and community supports needs to be there, or some other funded program. And of course, I think that will be the states doing that. And so they need to have a seat at the table, because they need to understand that if the federal government are going to kick off X amount of percentage off the NDIS, they need to be prepared. When are they going to step in, and how are they going to step in to support those people?
Claire, can I just say though, It's very interesting to me that it's only the South Australian, the Tasmanian premiers putting their hands up.
Correct.
Okay, you haven't heard anything from New South Wales, Queensland.
Well, what should New South Wales do?
Well, look, New South Wales has completely removed itself from providing services in disability, and it did so under the coalition, it's not just Labor. And I can't see them coming back. I mean, that's why Premier Means is completely silent on this issue. He's happy for the feds to manage this because it's a huge economic burden.
Yes.
And he's smart enough to know that he doesn't want it. I think the ship sailed for states to come back, to be honest, because the infrastructure's already been sold off and handed over to mostly NGOs. And it's really the feds dealing directly with NGOs and trying to contain the number of people that are getting on the scheme. I think it's almost impossible for the states to come back in, and I can't imagine the New South Wales Premier putting his hand up begging to be on that table.
No, but I mean, look, something has to be done though, because as you said, I mean, you've got so many people who are under a certain age, or I think it's about 40% of people have an autism diagnosis or thereabouts. So,
ridiculous.
You know, it's extraordinary that it's not means tested in the very beginning. It's just bizarre. Now, look, tackling the shocking negative effects of social media that it's having on young Australians will play a key role in repairing social cohesion. That's according to the nation's new Special Envoy, Peter Khalil. Claire, do you think that social media is indeed contributing to the cracks that we're seeing in our society?
Look, it contributes to it. I think it contributes to individual families and breakdown and cohesion within groups and within families and mental health, and that has a ripple effect, sure. A special envoy, I just hope that it's not some figurehead, that, you know, we've made a role now and we've done it on paper.
They couldn't make him a minister, Claire, so they gave him something
special envoys.
And I just think that's just going to be a lot of garbage, that we're doing something, but really what is the special envoy doing? Apparently going now on some conversation tour for the next 6 months to talk to stakeholders.
A talking tour.
And it's like
a
talking tour.
Then?
Exactly.
What's the safety commissioner? So it's just
correct.
more bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Really.
What do you think, Tania?
Well, you've already got an e-safety commissioner with a whole office and budget, and now we've got this new special envoy. I mean, I just think it's ridiculous. I don't know what Peter Khalil or whatever his name is going to offer or achieve.
No, more money wasted.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We'll see where it goes, but I think that's about it. A couple of media releases here and there.
Oh, probably. More talking. Now, look, I've got to show you both this. John Farnham's iconic song, You're the Voice, has been used as the backing track, would you believe, in a campaign video endorsing Kamala Harris for US President.
In this election, we each face a question. What kind of country do we want to live in?
I don't think John Farnham, when he wrote that, thought, Kamala Harris, you are the voice of America. Claire, what do you think?
It's not endorsed by Kamala. Someone made it on social media. It's very cinematic, isn't it? It's very Hollywood. It's very over the top. I just think I hear that, and it's such a good Aussie banger. Like, it's such a good Aussie song. And then I see the kind of American voiceover and imagery, and I'm just like, that's our song. Don't use our song.
It didn't work for the voice referendum, okay? So it's a big fail. I don't think it's going to work here either. And why aren't they using the next line? They're down the barrel of a gun.
That line. What an iconic US line. I mean, I think you're right. It does not suit the US. It's an absolute shocker. But Kamala Harris using all these modern songs, and then she brings out You're the Voice.
Some rap song. There was
over trying, completely desperate. Claire Rowe, Tania Mahalan, good to have you both on. Have a good weekend. Thank you so much.